I'm Roy Lee Lindsay with the North Carolina Pork Council, and I want everyone to remember, bacon makes everything better.
Hey folks, David Glenn of the North Carolina Sports Network coming at you from the 2024 ACC Kickoff event. Our coverage, as always, sponsored by the North Carolina Pork Council. Did you know that there are only 3 active coaches who have under their belts an FBS National Championship? You have Kirby Smart of Georgia, you have Dabo Swinney of Clemson, a guy we talk to regularly, and you have a guy I've chatted with since 1988, Mack Brown of the North Carolina Tar Heels. Great to see you, Coach. How are you?
Thank you, David. Great to see you for many years.
Amen to that. You mentioned among your comments earlier that you are as excited as you have ever been as a college football coach, which is a long, long time. Why?
David, I think there's a number of things. I know who I am. I know why I'm doing this now. I don't need the money. I don't need more wins. I'm doing it to influence young people's lives. So that's such a strong purpose. And very few people get to do that. Secondly, we've done some really wonderful things for the 5 years we've been here, but we haven't finished right the last 2 years. So people remember November. So people are frustrated with us because of the state game. They're frustrated with us because we haven't finished the season. And I got it. I'm the same way. So I want to make sure we get that fixed.
Earlier today, and I've now been through all 17 schools over these last 4 days, but earlier today something happened that I had not seen in 17 trips to that ballroom. Your defensive end star, Kamen Rucker, from the podium, in the midst of answering media questions, looked over to you to the side and said, "I just want you to know I love you, Coach." And you said, "I love you, Kamen." You've been at this a long time. You just mentioned how important that part of your job description is. What does that mean to you, even after all these years?
David, it means everything. And when I get frustrated with university, or I get frustrated with the NCAA or NIL or transfer portal, and I walk in and eat lunch with those kids, you just melt.
Yeah.
And it's back to, I got you, God. This is what I do this far. We'll get the rest of it worked out. But as long as these kids need you, then there's a purpose, and that's a really strong purpose. And I'm so proud of those guys. They're all smart, and they all handle themselves so well, and I walk out of here like a proud dad.
Another thing you said earlier today is basically that amateurism is dead, and we, college football, are a mini NFL. Do you say that with sadness? Do you say that as just a reality check? Does it bother you? And how do you handle this new world that's only 3 years old, really?
Yeah, David, it's a confusing answer for me because I like the fact that the players are getting money. I wish we had guidelines before we had started this. And the NFL now is a better model than we are. So that's why we're following the NFL, because they have a model in place and we don't. And the people that put these things in place didn't think about the consequences. So we've got consequences. But as I look back during COVID, I was pouting one day and I told Sally, what am I doing? I should have stayed with TV. We can't even play. We don't have practice. We don't have coaches. And she said, maybe you're here to help these kids. They're about to lose their senior year. Maybe they don't ever get to play again. Maybe you're here to help the coaches. You got money. They don't. They can't just quit. Maybe you're here to help poor people in this state that are struggling and lost their jobs with COVID and can't eat. So I got kind of chewed out by Sally, and she's really right, because she said, you coaches that handle COVID the best are going to be the ones that win the most games. We've said the same thing with NIL. If you can't adapt and you can't adjust, get out, because it's changing. And it doesn't care whether you like it or not. The players don't care whether you like it or not. So I'm really excited. I'm encouraged that we're having to make really good decisions to change in the midst of all this stuff, and the ones that handle the adjustments and the change the best are going to win. And that's my job. So that's what I'm excited about.
With name, image, likeness in mind, there was a time in the offseason that folks were wondering, is Omarion Hampton going to stay a Tar Heel? Is Kamen Rucker going to stay a Tar Heel? I'm sure others were involved. Coaches talk about tampering all the time. I don't need you to get into that today, but I wonder, what is your answer to, is the Carolina football nation, boosters, the collectives, et cetera, are they answering the call? Because you guys are great at a lot of things as coaches and you control a lot of things, but you actually do not have direct control over name, image, likeness money.
We don't anymore. And we haven't been very aligned at Carolina. We've got 28 sports, and everybody was calling and asking for money, and we're finally getting alignment. We're going to get it's one collective, and that one collective is going to be calling and asking for money instead of our boosters with booster fatigue getting 13 calls for money every week. And Omarion and Kamen stayed because they loved the place and loved the culture. They're getting some NIL money, but not near the amount of money that they could have gotten other places. But I see us moving forward, David. We've gotten it. One of our boosters that I love, and I won't even say his name here, said, I think NIL stinks, but he said, I think NIL smells, losing stinks. So I want to get involved so we don't lose games, and that's a fact right now. People are paying players, so that's where it is.
We have a living legend, UNC coach Mack Brown, joining us here on the David Glenn Show. Looking forward, what would you say are the measuring sticks for your quarterback candidacies over this next handful of weeks as you prepare to face Minnesota of the Big Ten on the road?
Well, number one, we're so lucky that Clyde Christensen can now coach full-time because he's coached the best quarterbacks in the country. So that's going to help us. And he and Chip will be coaching our three quarterbacks. And then the other thing we've done, I talked to Chip and Clyde before I came here yesterday and said, let's give them 5 things that are going to determine who plays. No interceptions, making the right decisions, don't hold the ball too long for sacks, those type of things. Yeah. And let's figure out what those 5 are between now and Monday. And then after, we'll put them in game-type situations more than ever before. And then after every practice, we'll sit down and say, okay, Connor, you did 2 of these things right. You've got to improve these 3. Max, you did 1 of them right. You would be the starter today, Connor. And then just keep working it that way, back and forth with both of them. See if Jacoby Criswell can get our attention enough that he should earn more snaps, and then they decide who plays.
In sports, we talk a lot about impact players who make a positive difference. When it comes to our state's economy, the North Carolina pork industry is a true MVP. Each year, the pork industry plays an important role in supporting rural communities across our state. It contributes more than $10 billion a year to the North Carolina economy and supports more than 44,000 jobs. Learn more about their positive impact at ncpork.org. The North Carolina Pork Council, the foundational partner of the North Carolina Sports Network. You have scrutinized late season struggles because you've had some stellar, sharp, sparkling records at midseason, and then some years just trailed off down the stretch. What were your conclusions after scrutinizing that part of your program, and how are you going to resolve that issue?
Well, the number one thing is we've got to uncover every stone to make sure that fewer penalties, making sure that there are no pre-snap or post-whistle penalties, and that you limit what happens between the whistles. Then the second thing is make sure that you're doing every little thing right off the field so the guys know that you got to show up on time and you got to be alert and you can't have mental mistakes because we've had too many mental mistakes. I think we've been too crazy on defense and tried to do too much because we haven't been very good. And usually if you take an average defense and try to do too much, you get bad. But the number one thing I feel like, and Jeff Collins feels the same way, let's play more people. It'll help you in the transfer portal. We've lost some backups. If they're playing, they're not going to leave. You'll have them more developed. You won't play Ced Gray and Power Eccles 900 snaps at linebacker and then be tired for the last 3 games. And then the starters are so tired they can't be on special teams, and you're average on special teams. So, and you get people hurt because they're worn out. So we'll have fewer energies. We'll have more energy, fewer injuries, more energy. We'll have guys that are more excited about being on special teams that are starters, and we'll be developing more players, and we'll have better team morale. So I think all that will lead to a better finish.
As we thank you for your time and let you go, I loved your candor earlier today when you basically said, it might have been to my question, I'm not sure, we're not sure what we're going to get. Like we're all asking you, Coach, how are you going to be better without Drake May? So you know your team, obviously, but for anyone wondering, that's why I didn't ask Coach Brown that question, because he was very honest. Whether you were a media member yourself or a coach for a long time, you think, but you probably don't know.
Yeah. David, it's so interesting. Fans want you to say, we're going to be good, man. We're going to be better than ever. And then you're not, and they say, the guy lied to us. So we really don't know. And I'm trying my best to tell the guys, get a chip on your shoulder. Nobody thinks you're any good. So if nobody thinks you're any good, let's go show them, or keep your mouth shut.